Ladies and gentlemen, would you please rise for the playing of
the Sibling Rivalry Baseball Podcast.
And here's your host, Jana, and her big brother, Jeff. We are deep into the playoffs now. In fact, we're almost at the end. We can see a light at the end of the playoff tunnel. And I think that, once again, we said something, and all of a sudden, things changed. We made note of it, called it out, and then it all changed. We'll talk about what that was in a moment. First, you can find us on social media, on Twitter, at Sibling Rivalry BB without the A.
And on Instagram and Facebook, at Sibling Rivalry BB with the A.
And, of course, on our website, siblingrivalrybb.com, and hit the Fanatics link, and you can get you one of those spiffy NL champion T-shirts.
Or AL.
Champion. Or AL. I just kind of I think the colors of the NL championship T-shirt look pretty good. I was like, ooh, I wouldn't mind having one of those, except I don't want to support that team. Honestly, I don't support any of them. But I did like the way the T-shirt looked.
Yeah, you can accept the aesthetics of the design.
Yes, we can do that. All right, today we're going to, before we get into the World Series matchup and who's doing that, we'll talk about the ALCS, the NLCS, and some other stuff along the way here on the Sibling Rivalry Baseball Podcast. If you remember, we were talking about the playoffs and how it felt like they were just screaming by. Everybody was like, I think, there were 2 games won. Everybody else was getting swept from the wild card, had, all that. And then it was like, okay, we can win game in the division series, but everybody else got swept. And then we get to the LCSs. And at first it looked like, okay, these might be over quick, because we were talking maybe, or were they going to have a whole week off?
Yeah, I really thought at the beginning, because when we talked, Rangers were up 2-0. The Phillies were up 2-0. And it was like, maybe this is going to be a quick, but not so fast.
Not so fast. Nope. All of a sudden, for the first time, I think I heard since like 1985, both league championship series went 7 games, both of them. There's been times when one or the other has gone to 7, but so it's been that long since.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
I know, right? Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy. But with the 7 games, the 2, AL, NL championship series going 7, baseball fans really should be rejoicing. Anytime there's a 7th game, you always are like, yes, it's more baseball. And it really got me thinking about the question you have posed this season. Is it about the team or is it about the game? And as I watched these series, I didn't have, I'm a Dodgers fan, but watching these series, it's about the game. Because it doesn't matter if the Dodgers are playing. Would I prefer to see the Dodgers play? Sure. But I picked a team and was like, okay, I'm going to root for this team when they're playing. And it was fun. And so, yeah, is it about the team or the game? That went through my head many times.
Now, I know based on text that I got from you where you were leaning.
Yes.
I found myself at times, because at the beginning, I kind of felt like, okay, the Phillies are probably the team that's going to go on from the National League.
Right.
And for a fair amount of time, I thought the way things changed, and we'll talk about that first with Houston and Texas, I thought, can Houston do this? Because it just seemed like, when you look at them, Houston honestly on paper and even on the field, looks like the best team out of the remaining 4 teams.
Mm-hmm.
So I found myself just rooting for good games,
Yeah.
for situations. And when I see a certain situation, I didn't care. I didn't even care if Tiny was up to bat. Based on that situation, I want to see something done there. I either want to see a great defensive play against him, which I would love, or I want to see him do something that's pure baseball. And a couple times I got that.
Yeah, definitely. I think throughout the series, and I think I did I always pick a team to root for. That's just how I go about it. But I was impressed with, plays that were made by Houston, either offensively, defense to get a hit, or get that hit that just kind of dropped in or whatever. So, yeah, it was very good baseball. Baseball fans were treated to good baseball in the championship series.
Yeah, absolutely. And that makes it better, especially now if more people are paying attention. You want to see those things. We've talked about this on and off. I don't think we're true baseball traditionalists because, our grandfather saw a different game than we saw. So it's like there are different things that you see. It's like, but you used to not to have a pitch clock to have shorter games.
Right.
And and I think now, especially in this AL series, we saw what it's like to have 2 managers who are not 100% analytics driven. And once they get into the game, that's it. They're control of the game. Texas, Chris Young said it from the beginning. The GM there in Arlington said when they hired Bochy, they told him, "Your team, do what you do. Don't don't worry about us up here. Manage the team."
Many managers are so jealous of Bruce Bochy right now.
Mm-hmm.
Not because of the position he's in with his team, but just the fact that front office is carte blanche. We trust you. We know we hired you. Do your job.
And he's been doing it. It's a team that nobody expected to come out like they did. And they played real well for most of the season. Yeah, they had downtime. But, Houston didn't start out very hot, and they had downtime. Look where they ended up. Same thing with we see with the Diamondbacks and the Phillies. Let's look at the remainder. So when last we were talking, we had gotten through Game 3. So the Rangers were actually up 2-1. They had won both games in Houston. And then the Rangers decided they needed to make this a better series, and they threw Max Scherzer. So we talked about that. So let's pick it up there with Game 4, which happened on the last Thursday night. Last episode came out Thursday afternoon. The Asterix and the Rangers in their second game at the Grill. And we talked about how great the Asterix had been on the road. Chas McCormick said his favorite clubhouse isn't his own. It's the clubhouse in Arlington. He likes the visitors clubhouse at the Grill. That's not the way it's supposed to be. They're not supposed to make it so nice that you want to be there. I mean, it's comfortable, sure, but not like, it should be like the water doesn't work right. So sometimes you get hot showers, sometimes you get cold showers. Usually right when it got comfortably warm, then it just goes completely cold and shocks you.
You shouldn't have any comfy seats in there.
You got a
metal chair.
Metal chair, exactly. Anyway, so he likes it there. He loves that. And a couple other guys were listed. They like playing there. And I told you that Espada, the bench coach there, to Dusty Baker. Speaking of another coach who doesn't work analytically, he's not against it, but it's not part of his. Once the game's on, he's working a different way. Anyway, so he said, but the Espada said, "Hey, they like to be up first and set the tone for the game." And in this game, they really did. They started off first inning, scored 3 right out the gate, and would go on to score 10 runs as they were able to beat up the Rangers 10-3 to tie up the series.
Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, you had Alex Bregman with the triple, and then it just kind of continued. He set the tone, I guess, for the game to get everything going. But yeah, I mean, Jose Altuve doubled, and then
Twice.
There was a single by Dubon, and a triple. So right in the first inning, a double, a single, a triple. How often does that happen? There's got to be a stat for that since 1899.
I bet you there is somewhere. They run three across the plate in the first inning, and really never looked back. They would score 4 more a little later in the game. Home runs from Abreu and Chas McCormick, and they win it. Like I said, quickly, easily. Of course, this is the one thing that outside of the first 2 guys in the rotation there for the Rangers, Scherzer didn't look good. They threw Andrew Heaney in this game, and Andrew Heaney's been okay out of the bullpen, but he throws 2/3 of an inning, gives up 3 runs, and just that's about the end of it right there. He's not able to do anything, and they run a bunch of pitchers out, and just about everybody, other than in fact everybody but Chris Stratton gave up a run.
Yeah, I was gonna say Andrew Heaney looked like his old team in a rotation of being in the Dodgers, of going 2/3 of an inning in a postseason game.
He had some times with the Yankees and the Angels as well.
That's true.
So Andrew Heaney was being Andrew Heaney.
Yeah, that's true. He was.
Anyway, they had an issue there, and even then, Jose Urquidy didn't go very far in for the Asterix, but the Asterix supported him a lot better. Although, hey, Corey Seager and Adalis Garcia, who we'll talk more about as we go for the rest of this, both with home runs. But like I said, they just couldn't overtake what the Asterix were able to do. So game number 3 out of at the Grill, we saw another. This one was a tight game. This one was pretty close. Asterix once again score in the first with an Alex Bregman home run, and then no score for a couple of innings. In fact, nobody scored again until the bottom of the 5th, when the Rangers would get on the board and tie it all up. Nathaniel Lowe hits a bomb off of Justin Verlander, and it's 1-1. Following inning, they're able to put 3 more on the board thanks to a big home run from Adalis Garcia, scoring. Corey Seager and Evan Carter would find their ways in thanks to that. And of course, that would lead to something a couple of innings later. So at that point, Rangers are up 4-2.
Yeah, it looks like they could be comfortable. You always want a couple more runs to give you some insurance there, but look like, hey, if they can keep them in check, then the Rangers could win at home.
And this was a matchup of the game 1 starters. Verlander versus Montgomery. Both of them would go almost the same as they did last time. 5 2/3 for Verlander, 5 1/3 for Montgomery. Both of them gave almost similar lines, except Verlander gave up 4 runs. Montgomery only gave up 2. It would be Jose Leclerc who would have some issues. But before we get there, we find ourselves in the bottom of the 8th. Adolis Garcia comes up to the plate. Now, remember what he did last time he was up. He hits a monster 3-run shot. They're at home. And let's just say that he got a little showy. He stood there for a while. He watched it, kind of, hooped and hollered with the crowd and his teammates. And then he had it. The ball was out of the park before he ever really started running.
Yeah, he was just walking more down the first base line. Yeah.
A lot of situations, people get mad about stuff like that, even though they won't admit to it. So here we are, bottom of the 8th, Adolis Garcia up and Brian Abreu, one of the better relievers for the Asterix. And the Asterix have some good relievers overall. They got a good bullpen. Abreu says it wasn't intentional, but he does hit Garcia.
Yeah, right at the upper arm. Now, he hits him, and immediately Garcia has words with Maldonado.
Right, because he's pretty sure that he called that pitch. Maldonado, of course, is saying, no, I set up outside.
Right. Now,
I was nowhere near there. I got an alibi.
That's right. But Abreu said, well, it was supposed to be inside.
Right. So miscommunication,
and make sure you get your story straight before you talk to the media.
And that must have been where their story was. The miscommunication was between them, not about where they were going to pitch. And if you watch the replay, Abreu is looking right where he's going to throw.
Yes.
It's not like he's looking to the outside. He's looking right at Garcia, and you can see when he lets go of the ball. That's what they always said. Point the ball to where you're going to throw it. Look at where you're going to throw it. He knew exactly where he was going. And Maldonado set up outside to try to cover it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Get your story straight.
Got a little heated. Bench is clearing. The bullpen's got to work out because they both ran in. And of course, by the time they got there, it was like, oh, you guys are here? We're done.
Yeah, everything's over. Go back to the bullpen.
Nothing major happened there as far as like that. A little pushing, a little shoving. But honestly, they kept Garcia away from Maldonado and away from guys. Even fellow countryman Yordan Alvarez and an opponent came over and kind of helped push Adolis away.
Well, and I think that's and you had said that was that Alvarez really helped Garcia stay out of the trouble.
Right. He ends up just being fined. Abreu, he was ejected because he pretty much, when he turned around on Maldonado, he pretty much was the instigator of more, even though Abreu technically is the instigator by hitting him.
Right.
Abreu was ejected, and he was supposed to be, he got a 2-game suspension that he appealed, and that was upheld, but it'll be served in April. Or late March or whenever the season starts, he'll get his 2 games then.
Yeah.
They didn't think it was fair to take him out of the mix. And he does indeed, get to pitch.
I'm trying to think of what commissioner kind of set that precedent when it happened in the postseason and there was a suspension, and it was the same thing. We're upholding the suspension, but you're going to serve it at the beginning of the season, next season, because it's not fair to the whole team because one person did this. So,
Giamatti.
That's right. Thank you. Bart Giamatti. Yeah.
Paul's dad.
Yeah. So I was like, how you see people's faces or certain features.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, so instead of punishing the whole class, just the one student gets punished. But
So
I don't know if you saw how many Astros fans came out of the woodwork and were so upset that Garcia didn't get suspended, that he only got fined, and that Abreu was the one that got suspended because Major League Baseball is against the Astros. They've always had it in for them, and they're out to get them. And I'm like, what planet do you live on? You live in Bizarro world.
do you still think that that your team won the 2017 World Series fair and square? If you say yes, then shut up. If you say no, that this is an issue, is a witch hunt, whatever, it wasn't. And you know what? Never once did MLB say nobody else is stealing signs or cheating, in air quotes. They said you guys took it to a whole new level.
Right.
It wasn't a little bit. And I still think, even though a lot came out recently about how Altuve didn't, like maybe if he did, maybe 4% of the time, if he participated. Other asterisks are all saying, nope, he didn't participate. Or, and somebody who went through and went back over all the games to listen for the trash can, they never heard any or very few for him. That's where that 4% came up.
Yeah.
But they have recently been showing him with, game-winning home run. And what's the first thing he does when he comes around third base? He grabs his jersey and holds it tight and tells him, no, do not pull off my jersey. Because he was wearing something to tip him off. He didn't have to hear the trash can because they were buzzing him.
Yes. Yes.
I don't care.
Yeah, it wasn't it wasn't a tattoo that his wife didn't want anyone to see. It was, yeah. But that just got me. I'm like, really? He threw at him, and that was the other thing too in the pregame shows. I think it was Mark DeRosa's like, no, he didn't intentionally hit him. I'm like, it's so obvious, and you're supposed to be the professional analyst. No,
but Mark DeRosa he's got a different goal. See, this is where maybe listening, and we'll talk a little bit more about him in a second, but Christopher Russo, this is the guy that you want to hear saying what actually happened, because he doesn't have the same motivation that Mark DeRosa does.
Right.
Remember, there's a lot of talk about Dusty Baker. When this series is over, is he going to retire? Depends. Do they make it to the World Series? Do they win? Will he retire after that? What if they don't make it? Will he still retire after that? He's 74 years old. He likes managing, but maybe he's like,
Well, I
don't know.
He got ejected during this whole thing. Dusty Baker did. But he just went back in the dugout and sat down. He didn't.
Oh, right.
He didn't go to the clubhouse and they didn't say anything. I mean, what are you going to say? Hey, Dusty, you got to go.
Thought at first, because then he came out again and they did, and he finally left.
Yeah.
But I don't think he realized they had thrown him out. I think he thought they were just throwing out a break.
Maybe. Yeah. Cause I thought, well, he was thrown out but then he just sat down like, okay.
And I was like, did I miss something? Maybe. And I thought maybe it was just Abreu.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was really the biggest thing to happen in this, as far as like any kind of a scuffling kind of thing. Otherwise, both teams, they went out, they played hard, and see, that's.
Yeah, I was to say that the whole thing with this is it was like, wow, because you don't really see a lot of benches clearing in postseason.
No.
So, and there is a rivalry. I think it's probably more so, obviously, now. They're both in the same division. But now it's amped up, a little bit more with this, this scuffle.
They move on. Abreu just got fined. Dusty got fined. I'm not Abreu, but Garcia got fined.
Mm-hmm.
Abreu will have his serve his suspension next season, and they move on. The Astros win that game 5-4. They'll score 3 in the ninth to take it.
Yeah, on a Jose Altuve home run.
But this time he
Yeah.
didn't grab his jersey. I guess they
Yeah.
could have torn it off if they wanted to, and
They could
we all would
have.
have seen. Unless he had that tattoo removed.
Right.
I don't know. He helps win. To drive it through, and they win. They win that game, and they collect up their things, and they head back that long journey between Arlington and Houston.
3.5 hours.
That's the drive.
That's the drive, not
They
to fly.
flies like an
Right.
hour.
Right. Yeah.
It's not a big deal. So they get Saturday off. They play Sunday, and you would just think, okay, Sunday first. Once again, the Astros score first, draw first blood, but the Rangers don't wait. They score right in the second to even it up.
Yeah.
And then
Mitch
the Rangers-
Garver home run.
Mm-hmm. And then they would grab another 2 before allowing another run to the Astros. The Astros would score 1 more in the bottom of the 6th, and that would be the end of their scoring. So even if nothing else happens in this game, the Rangers win it 3-2. But the top of the 9th got a little out of control for Houston, as the Astros would put up 5 runs. I mean, the Rangers, sorry, not the Astros. The Rangers would put up 5 runs thanks to, a couple of nice hits. You had a home run by
Adolis Garcia.
of the Grand Slam variety.
Yes. And the thing is he had, before he hits this Grand Slam in his other at bats, he had struck out 4 times. 4 times. And the crowd, of course, he is the villain. They're booing him. And then he just silenced. He said, silence.
And it's not as if he just carried that whole weight on his own. No, he had help, because Rafael Montero, who was in pitching, he took over for Brian Abreu. He walks Josh Young, who would then go on to score, not because of Garcia's home run, but thanks to a couple of hits by Leody Taveras and Marcus Semien. Corey Seager gets hit by a pitch. That's when Josh Young scores. Everybody moves up 1. Evan Carter strikes out, and then Adolis Garcia makes them pay for their mistakes of letting people get on base.
Yeah.
And then Andrew Haney would close things out for him. All of a sudden, it doesn't look so much like Houston's going to take this.
No,
they don't look as invincible as they did at the Grill.
No, it's 9-2, and that is how it will end up in this game. Like Nathan Eovaldi on the mound for the Rangers, Framber Valdez on the mound for Houston, and they're just
once again not a great outing by Valdez. He didn't win a single game.
No.
During the his time in the playoffs, he did strike out 6, but he gave up 2 home runs, 3 earned runs, and only 5 hits over 5 innings. But the Rangers made him count. He gave up the home runs, all the home runs in that game. Well, not all of them. He didn't give up Garcia's home run. That was Ryan Stanek.
Yeah.
But he gave them up to both Mitch Garver and Jonah Heim. Forgot about his home run. And,
and Eovaldi went 6 1/3 innings and, gave up 2 runs, had 4 strikeouts. And then Leclerc came in and made up, for his previous outing. And as you said, Andrew Haney closed out the game. So, now we go.
Game 7.
Game 7.
Who cares about Monday Night Football? We got Monday Night Baseball. Game 7.
Game 7. And Game 7s, like I said, are like the ultimate, because that's it. That's it. You don't get any more chances. So who's it going to be?
So we're all tied up 3-3. The home teams have not won anything in this series.
Nothing.
So will that change?
Yeah, Astros are at home. You got to win if they want to move on.
You would
and they're
think
at home.
that they
so
would be able to win at least one at home.
at least one.
But
Rangers had other plans, and and Corey Seager, who really was a key. He needed to be hitting, and he showed that in the top of the first when he came up, hit a home run to right center field. So they're on the board first. Does it matter if you're on the board first? Because I've heard that a lot between both series. We wanted to be on the board. We wanted to get the first run. We wanted to score first. That was important.
Now, there's a couple things going on. Is number one, I don't remember, but it does seem like that there's a higher percentage of teams win if they score first, especially for these two teams. The other thing that's kind of interesting in this series, Dusty Baker has never won as a manager, has never won a game 7. Bruce
Bochy
has never lost.
That's right. Never lost a game 7. So, and these are two guys that are, like storied, right? We know Bruce Bochy and Dusty Baker, obviously, as a player, as a manager, and just a people that they are, who they are, how they manage. So going into that game, like, okay, will there be a new, will one of them lose and one of them win? Or will that stat stay the same? But by the end of the top of the first, they're already on the board. But Houston was like, okay, sure, you got to run. Let's get 3. So they, so it's 3-1 by the end of the first inning. Jose Abreu singled. And then Michael Brown. Well, let's see. Jose Abreu singled, and then Josh Young the wrong team, because I
was going to say, did they
can't. They did that thing,
that
where
swap thing you were talking about.
That's right. Jose Altuve scored, and anyway, so they were up 3-1 in the first. So if the Astros could have just been it, 3-1, and nothing happens for the rest of the game. But that's not what happened.
That could have been it. It was a tough game because you were wondering. Max Scherzer back on the hill again. Only goes 2 2/3, but I think that was by design.
I think so too, and I have to say that's probably one of the smartest moves, is only to have him in there for that long. And also, I gotta say, he's like what is the word? He's always there, right, with these postseason teams.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he shouldn't be there. He's like an interloper. That's what he's an interloper.
That's it. Max Scherzer's like Quantum Leap. He leaps into somebody else.
Yes.
Just like you said, interlopers, but that whole same thing.
He finds himself in these positions. He starts out with the Mets, and he's going to be so great with the Mets, and the Mets stink. So he hops and goes in with the Rangers,
Well, and, he wasn't the only one, obviously, because Verlander started there this season too, ends up back.
But maybe they talked to, hey, I got this machine. It allows me to do these things. I set the dial for, the World Series, who postseason, and I just land wherever. And in this case, he landed with the Rangers, but he's got, he's always like, I got the dead arm. Don't know if I'm going to be able to pitch. And so I thought it was smart that he only went the short amount of time.
So he does that, and then they bring Jordan Montgomery in, short rest. He goes another 2, doesn't give up anything, just 3 hits. And Scherzer didn't look bad per se, only 4 hits and gave up 2 runs, one of those being a home run to Bregman. But otherwise, looked all right. And then, the bullpen did well. Jose Leclerc stayed solid to finish that game out. Of course, it wasn't a save category, but on the other side, they threw a lot of pitchers. Christian Javier started, goes a third of an inning.
You know, I just realized I totally got the score backwards. I was thinking Houston was up 3-1, or was that the other game? All of a sudden, I don't remember.
That's like a different game altogether. No, the Rangers, thanks to Corey's home run, and
That's
then
right.
a couple of singles by Garcia.
Yeah, they're
and,
up 3-0. Okay,
and
I
he's
gotta
up.
keep straight here.
They
It's
were
just
up, and then
madness.
yes, and it was just so much going on and so much good baseball.
Yeah.
On both sides of the ball. There was a lot happening, and it just was like. And the sad part for me was there's a lot of stuff that I only got to see some highlights of or got to hear. I couldn't watch because the games took place at 2:00 in the afternoon my time.
Yeah.
And I had that stupid job thing.
I know.
Because nobody's paying me just to do baseball podcasts yet. Anyway,
we're award-winning podcast.
Oh, we are.
host.
We are indeed.
Okay, so it is Texas 3-1, and
At the end of the first, yes.
And
they would that lead would increase to 4-1, then 4-2 by the third, and in the fourth inning, things kind of took a turn for the Asterisks with J.P. France on the mound. The Rangers would start off by Josh Young singling. Josh Young, such a great young player for them, stood up and stood out. Maybe not the MVP necessarily, but they definitely won because of his efforts.
And it's good that he was able to come back because he had an injury during the regular season where he had surgery on his thumb.
Right.
So for him to be, come back and contribute the way he did. So yeah, he singled. Marcus Semien walks. Corey Seager singles. And
Evan Carter doubled
to
score both Young and Semien. Adolis Garcia gets up and just a lousy single.
That's
not
it.
a big giant home run. Lousy single.
That's it. That's all you needed.
That would score Seager and Evan Carter, and 4 runs across the plate for them, and they would take a commanding lead at that point. And honestly, no looking back.
Yeah, no looking back in this, and you could see the disappointment. I don't know if that's disbelief. I think in the fans that were there. It's like the, juice box where you're trying to get the last little bit out and it just is collapsing on itself, or a Capri Sun where it just becomes flat. That's what happened to the Astros in this game. There's no more juice in the juice box, and the fans knew it.
They didn't use the little flaps on either side. I didn't know this until recently, but the little flaps on the side of a juice box are so you can hold it and not squeeze it.
Really? I had no idea.
You didn't know that?
No.
Yeah, I just thought that was packaging. But yeah, if you pull them up, you hold it by that, so that way you don't squeeze the box itself. And that's what was happening. They squeezed the box and they got out. Had they been holding it by the wings,
see, they didn't know.
No,
they didn't know. Maybe that's what's been happening to them all season long at home. They weren't holding the flaps.
Right. That was it. And
wow.
So the Rangers 11-4 victors and on their way to the first World Series they've been to since 2011. They've never won one. And once again, we won't have a repeat champion.
That's right. For the first time, in 7 years, that it's not going to be the Astros or the Dodgers in the postseason in the World Series. So,
right. Mostly in that 7 years, it was the Astros.
Right. Exactly. I know when they said the Dodgers, I was like, wait a minute. I got to think about that.
Kind of like going back in my head. Wait. They weren't there then. They weren't there then.
Right.
Okay. Anyway, so MVP of the ALCS,
Adolis Garcia. I mean, who else?
Right. I do have to call him out on one thing. He hit a ball, and sure, when he hit it, it looked like it was going out, but he watched it, and then he watched it, and then he realized this is going to hit off not the top of the fence, but about midway down the wall. And he went, uh-oh, I better start running.
Yeah.
And he made it to first on a ball that he clearly should have been at second base on. They played it, the outfielder there, Brantley, played it right, but he wasn't going to make it to third, but still.
Yeah, you got to be. It doesn't matter. You hit the ball, you got to start running, and you can't admire every. The one home run, that was a big one that he hit at the grill. So you can say, okay, I get it. But not every time.
Well, and the couple of times that he did stop and watch were clearly going to be home runs. I mean, the pitcher didn't turn around. The outfielders didn't even turn around.
Right.
But on that one, he was watching it to see if it was going out. Well, it was going to be in the park. Don't just get to first. You should be at second by the end of that.
Yeah.
And then if it had gone out, then you go to the trot.
Yeah.
That was one part that I wasn't a fan of. I mean, I like the way he plays. Mm-hmm. I like the overall, his attitude and all that stuff. I was good with that. But I know the people in St. Louis were very unhappy about watching him do all that because he got traded away.
Yeah.
He should have been a Cardinal.
Exactly. Yeah. There are certain things. He has big energy, and I like that. Especially in the dugout, he gets people excited. It's like he needs to bottle it and sell it to other teams like the Dodgers in the postseason, because he does have a lot of energy. I like it, but yeah, I don't like when, even if it's out, you can watch it while you're starting your trot. Nobody says you have to speed around the bases. That's never happened. But you can start a nice little trot and then go.
I think you're out of the box like it's any other hit, and then you slow down once you realize that it went out.
Well, yeah. But I mean, I'm saying like if it's, it.
Yeah, but if it, you could just stand there at the plate all day like he did.
Yeah, but then there should be a home run clock.
Right. But I just think that was one of those times where he was pretty sure he got a hold of it, and he didn't. What's he gonna do?
And how many times did you hear, which surprised me? Joe Davis is usually pretty good. It was Joe Davis and John Smoltz on the call for this series, where the announcers just got way too excited. Not so Joe Davis to a certain extent, because I think he's more. He's the World Series announcer, so he's a little more polished. But even he sometimes was like, and it's a high drop, and it's like, but it's going to be caught. And then they're like, oh, and somebody, whoever, Garcia snags it. But because they drop how they say, like, oh. The worst one comes in the National League Championship Series with Brian Anderson. I mean, any ball that was hit it's a long drive, and he caught it.
Yeah, but it's a long drive and it's caught in short right field.
Right. Yeah.
That's a real long drive. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so the Rangers moving on to the World Series.
So questions, and we'll talk a little bit about the World Series matchups, but questions about how the series have worked out. About the wild cards. Did the fact that Texas, I mean, we got to look at it here. They won every game that they played on the road. They never lost a game on the road.
Right.
And they were the road team, so they beat Tampa. They beat Baltimore. The first time they lose is when they go back home. Now they're going to be the home team with home field advantage. What now? How's that going to work for them? And we wondered if there would be a long time. Well, now that they just barely won, they only have a couple of days off because the World Series starts tomorrow.
Yeah. Part of me makes me wonder, was this by design? Like, I know you want, most of the teams, you're like, you want to get in there, you want to win the series. But with all of the talk about the bye, the teams that got the byes and all the time off, were the teams thinking, we don't want that time off and we're just going to play all of the games. And we're just going to, I know it sounds silly because obviously team wants to just win the series. But I don't know, that it just kind of was like, did they, okay, if we win game 6, that'll give us this many days off. If we go to 7, we get this many days off. Because we don't want to get rusty.
Right, but how much time did they have between the series with Baltimore before they played Houston? Yeah. Houston lost 1 game of their division series.
Right.
To Minnesota.
Mm-hmm. At home.
Right. So, they only did 1 extra day, but they had to do that travel. Whereas, that's not what happened with the Rangers. They won at home too.
Right.
So
I don't know.
Did they change the script because they're like, oh, you know what? We need to keep it as long as possible so they can maintain their.
Yeah. I don't know. I just, little things go through your head like, nobody wants to be off. We just want to keep playing baseball. Things
that make you go, So we now know the Rangers are on their way. They are half of the World Series matchup. Let's go and find out what happened in the National.
The National League, you have of course, the Phillies and the Diamondbacks, and last time when we left you last time, right? They were headed to Arizona.
When last we spoke.
That's right. Where they were headed to Arizona is interesting because in Philadelphia, tickets for the games were going for about $450. Not sure where those seats were, but on average. Diamondbacks, they're going back to Arizona. Diamondbacks are down 2 games. Tickets are selling $17. You could go see a postseason game. I'm like, I'm going to hop in the car now.
Yeah, you should have.
I should have, but yeah.
A few years back, I think I went to, I know which game I went to, but I'm thinking it was like $30. It was going to cost me more to park at Dodger Stadium. But it was the Dodgers were playing the Brewers. I think it was like game 5, and it was a day game, and they were like, hey, we're practically giving them away. And it was $20 for the ticket. And, it was upper deck out in the far reaches of right field, but it was still the playoff game. And
yeah, it's a playoff game.
But I think they had already given up hope because the Phillies were like, what would the term be? A juggernaut.
Yeah.
It was really hard to look at them and think that they weren't the team of destiny.
Well, the first game, the Phillies win 5-3. So you're like, okay. But I think it's the second game that really kind of, for some people, maybe like the door, maybe not all the way shut, but it was really close because it's 10-0 that the Phillies won before they headed to Arizona. So you think, well, they have all the momentum going into this. Now, Arizona didn't have to win this game, to stay in it. They would have just been down 3-0. But
as history goes,
yeah,
they had to win this game.
Exactly, right? They had to, and they were back home. And even though there were reports of Phillies fans buying seats, knowing, that they weren't going to be able to go, there were still a lot of Phillies fans. And that's the other thing that got me was the announcers, Brian Anderson in particular, Ron Darling, and I think it was Jeff Francoeur.
Francoeur, yeah.
Yeah, said, but it was Brian Anderson and said, oh, the Phillies fans that flew out here. Like, no, they probably lived there.
Right.
You don't just, yeah. I mean, it might be a little bit different in Philly, but, Arizona, there's Phillies fans, like we talked about last week. All right, so we get to this game, and low scoring game, probably the lowest scoring game of all the games.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all it takes. Didn't need anything more than that. Plus,
how much do you got to win by to win?
1, and in this case, you need a walk-off makes it better.
Of course it does. Ranger Suarez on the hill for the Phillies. Brandon Fott. That's what it is. Fott.
Yes.
The rookie on the hill for the D-backs, and both of them looked pretty good. Fott would only give up 2 hits, whereas Ranger would give up 3. But they pitched about the same amount of innings. Strikeouts very similar. Fott had 9. Suarez had 7.
And nothing happened in this game until the 7th inning. There no scoring going on.
No, it was anybody that wasn't sure about the rookie for the D-backs, he pitched better than Gallen and Kelly did.
Yeah, he did. It wasn't until, like I mentioned, the 7th, and it was the top of the 7th. The Phillies are going to score their only run in this game, and it was a wild pitch by Ryan Thompson, and Bryce Harper scored. And that was it for the Phillies. But they did go up, 1-0, but it was the bottom of the 7th where Lourdes Gurriel Jr. with his purple hair. And that's one thing I noticed, that in the stands, there were a lot of kids that had purple hair, either like wigs, kind of, because you have to have his hair.
Mm-hmm.
And then also Phillies fans have really embraced Brandon Marsh, and there are Phillies fans that wear beards and the long hair to go with the Captain Caveman. But anyway, so Lourdes Gurriel Jr. doubles, and Alec Thomas scores. That ties the game. And then nothing happens in the 8th, and then we get to the bottom of the 9th.
Yep, and that's when a guy who had a monster postseason would do his work. Thanks to a couple guys getting on board. Pavin Smith with a single, and then Emmanuel Rivera got on a fielder's choice. Perdomo would then walk, and Ketel Marte, with the bases loaded, with a lousy single.
That's it. And it was Craig Kimbrell on the mound.
He looking very Dodgery from the way he pitched with the Dodgers when they brought him in. He didn't really, and it didn't help. It didn't really help the Phillies that the guys that they had depended on in other games and through the season, like Jose Alvarado and Craig Kimbrell, had some issues, especially Kimbrell. And the D-backs pitchers, they were kind of invincible. Genkel was pretty good. Seawald was definitely.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, you had Ryan Thompson was pretty solid. These guys, Saul Frank, who I had mentioned in a previous, I think during the Dodger, it's like, who are these guys?
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't matter who they are. They're turning things around. Now it's only one game.
Right. Just one.
Things can change. They're still down 2-1. And they're playing 3 there in Arizona. So, I mean, there's a chance that the Phillies still could take it. There's still 2 more games there at, I was going to call it the old name, Bank One Ballpark at Bob, but it's another bank, Chase.
Yep.
They still could walk away with it. The D-backs just need Once again, solid pitching and solid defense. Not a huge scoring game, once again, but definitely more than the previous game.
More than the previous game, and some heroics coming off the bench for the D-backs. But yeah, I mean, it was Philadelphia. It didn't score until the fourth, and then they would score in the fifth, the sixth, and the seventh. And so it was like, yeah, I mean, Diamondbacks, maybe some fans, maybe they were, losing a little bit of hope. Yeah, so by the bottom of the third, Arizona's up 2. And then here comes top of the fourth. Kyle Schwarber hits a home run, and it's 2-1. Top of the fifth, Brandon Marsh doubles, and JT Realmuto scores, ties the game 2-2. And then top of the sixth, you think, well, it's tied. It was tied, but then Phillies come back, go up 4-2. Then Trey Turner gets a sacrifice fly, goes up 5-2. So you think this is it. This is the end of it. Bottom of the seventh, Arizona comes back up. They're down, like I said, 5-2, but they don't stop. They keep chipping away and trying to still keep the crowd, because I think that's really important. I mean, we saw that with the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers series in Dodger Stadium, where I felt like I could hear people's conversations. It was so, the fans had been completely taken out of that series by the Diamondbacks. Christian Walker walks, Perdomo scores, and then it's up. It's 5-3. Then you got the bottom of the eighth, Alek Thomas not in the lineup, but pinch hits a home run, a 2-run home run, and ties the game. So if anybody was asleep, they were awake, and the best part about that home run went right in the pool. And then their catcher, Gabriel Moreno, singles, and that's it.
Ketel Marte would score off of that lousy single.
Lousy single. Again, a single wins the game. Arizona's back in this thing with the win 6-5.
Right. Okay. How did this? What's going on here? So one more in Arizona before they find their way. Now remember, at this point, what is it? 2-2 now, right?
Yeah.
So it's 2-2. So Philly's not out of this by any means. They may feel like it in some ways because they've just lost 2, and they had such a commanding presence in the first 2 games. Especially when they were heading out, they had scored those 10 runs and blanked the D-backs.
Mm-hmm.
Now they need to do something, or they're on the verge of elimination if they lose game 3 in Arizona or game 5 overall.
Right. You got Zach Wheeler on the mound and Zach Gallen on the mound for the D-backs. So the tale of the 2 Zachs.
Yep, and Zach Wheeler's actually been having the better series overall, or postseason is what I mean. He's 3-0 in there. In this game, he'll go 7 total innings, give up just 6 hits and 1 run, strike out 8. Well, Zach Gallen will give up a hit for as many hits as his innings he pitched, 6 of them, with 4 runs, 2 of those being via the long ball. Not really looking great. Only 1 strikeout for Zach Gallen.
Yeah, he didn't look as sharp in this series as he did when he, when he pitched against the Dodgers in the one game.
And I think a lot of that has to do with what we talked about before. They made changes, and the Dodgers didn't pick up on those changes from what they saw them. They were complacent with this team. The Phillies, on the other hand, didn't play the Diamondbacks 13 times.
Right.
They played them maybe 6 total. And in that, depending on the rotation, they may not have even seen Zach Gallen. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look.
Right.
But
Yeah, that is true.
And the Diamondbacks, not really sure what happened after 2 nights, and it wasn't like they went huge scoring runs anyway. They had scored 7 runs between 2 games, but only 2 in the first game of it. They had a bigger night than the next night, and here they're only able to find 1 run.
Yeah, that's it. And the 1 run came in the 7th. And
another home run from Alec Thomas, and that would be it. They do get 8 hits in there. They just couldn't get anything. 2 for 7 with runners in scoring position. So not a great night for them.
And
quite a few strikeouts.
Yeah, and even with the Phillies, I mean, they scored the 2, and in the top of the first, it was Bryson Stott who singled, and Kyle Schwarber scored, and then Bryce Harper in this game steals home. There's a double steal. Bryce Harper steals home. Bryson Stott steals second base. And then he advances to third because there was a throwing error by Ketel Marte. By this point, Phillies are up 2-0. And then the rest of the Phillies, that's it as far as like the small ball, because the rest of the hits come from home runs by Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, and JT Realmuto.
Well, who else is going to hit a home run but Kyle Schwarber? That seemed to be his
that's
way.
what he does.
And is it just me, or do you see a resemblance between Bryson Stott and like Dax Shepard?
Yes. I was going to text that to you. Every time I saw him, I was like, is that Dax Shepard? It must be. Yes.
I did see him one time where I had almost a feeling like he was a little more, where he had like a Bradley Cooper feel, but for the most part, Dax Shepard.
Yes, most definitely. Totally agree with that. So, Phillies win this game 6-1 because the Diamondbacks just couldn't do anything against Wheeler in this game. And I think Phillies probably felt like, we have to win this game. We're going back home. We want to have this win with the momentum. Torey Lovullo, though, had other plans for his team because he said, we did not fly across the country to get our butts kicked.
I wouldn't think that's why you flew across the country.
Right. Could you imagine? So what's your purpose of visiting? To get my butt kicked.
Uh-huh. Okay, well, enjoy your stay.
That's right.
They stamped your passport into Philadelphia. So they get that travel day. That makes sense in this case because you're going from Arizona to, eastern Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it's more than an hour.
Right. And so they get there. They've got Aaron Nola, who is going to be big on the free agent list this winter when the hot stove kicks up. And they're sending Merrill Kelly, who also had some issues with them. I mean, after doing great against the Dodgers, not so great in his other start, but he's up, and so another decent looking pitching matchup when they start everything up for more Monday Night Baseball at Citizens Bank Park. And I don't know if anybody really expected what happened. I know that Chris Mad Dog Russo didn't expect it.
No.
And said he didn't think that they could win. He would be shocked if the D-backs won Game 6. And I think I hate to say this, but I think most of us kind of felt that way.
I think so. Yeah. Because again, Phillies had won in Arizona and they're going back to Citizens Bank Park. I mean, that is probably, if you're a team, you want to play, the best atmosphere for home field advantage would have to be there.
Yeah, I agree. There has been, and I think everybody just figured, especially after the first 2 games, the Phillies can't lose at home.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not going to lose at home. Diamondbacks had other plans.
Right. I think too that a lot of people really overemphasize the wins versus the Braves. Yes, the Braves, best team, awesome lineup from top to bottom, but the Phillies are no slouches.
Yeah, no, I mean, not when you have, I mean, you look at their first one is at Schwarber, Turner, and then Harper, right? 1, 2, 3.
Mm-hmm. And then Castellanos batting lower in the lineup.
Right.
All of a sudden, if you think, oh, I'll make it through Stott and Bohm, and I mean, they're not prolific hitters. They'll pop something here or there. I mean, they'll contribute, but
Well,
they're
I
not like
even,
those top three. And then
yeah,
Castellanos has been on fire. He's been Scooby-Doo,
yeah.
for most of the season.
And you could throw Brandon Marsh in there, who again, has his moments. So you can't, I don't think you can discount that entire lineup.
Well, and Brandon Marsh in this series batting 343.
Yeah.
He's batting 100 points higher than Castellanos at that point. JT Realmuto, we never remember him. And
Yeah.
Rojas he's like Cody Bellinger in the end of his Dodger career, where he was
Yeah.
pretty much just a center fielder, not a hitter.
Not a hitter. Yeah.
But you don't need him necessarily to be a big hitter when you've got the guys at the top and a couple guys at the bottom. Yeah, they didn't. And I forgot about that. Michael Lorenzen would throw in this game. I forgot about Michael Lorenzen.
That's right. That he's a Philly. I know. Yeah, I mean, Arizona comes in and scores right off the bat in the top. What did I say off the bat? In the top of the second. But they scored early, and I think that was part of their plan. Was they needed to score early, and the other part was they had to do whatever they could do to get the crowd out of that game.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah, because I think for the Phillies fans, it's been mentioned before, they are an integral part of the game. They are cheering not just offense, but the defense. They're always going. If you can take that out, because that's almost like, you got 9 guys on the field, so that's the 10th. Like in Seattle with the Seahawks, they got the 12th man.
The 12th man.
Yeah, so the Phillies fans could be the 10th, right?
Right.
And you take them out, and for the D-backs, they had to win this game 6 and this was their first elimination game win on the road. They were in franchise history. They were 0-4 before that.
Yeah, they got a lot of, when it comes to playoffs, they've got a lot of history franchise wise. I mean, winning a World Series faster than anybody else ever has.
Yeah, for an expansion team. And Philadelphia, they had been 6-0 at home this postseason. They'd won 11 straight postseason home games against their NL opponents. And they had also been 5-0 in potential postseason clinchers under manager Rob Thompson, which I have to say that Rob Thompson is... he's got to be like, what's his pulse? Because he is so low key. Is it because he's Canadian?
Maybe.
Because he's so...
He comes from a cold environment.
Yeah, I mean, he just is like, okay. You just don't ever really see... I didn't really see a lot of emotion, and maybe they didn't always show it. But when they did show him, he always had the same look. He's very calm, cool, and collected. On the outside, maybe. I don't know about the inside.
Right. Yep. That's true. He does seem like he had it. And I would have said, I really found out a lot about Torey Lovullo over this series.
Yeah.
More so than even with the Dodger series. But both of these guys, they come at it from different angles. But like I think I mentioned last week, just listening to him talk about stuff that they did to get better defensively,
Mm-hmm.
and things that they did. And as a organization, they made some good changes. Bringing up Corbin Carroll, who knew this kid was going to be this good?
Right. Yeah, and I mean, you could look and say, oh, he's tearing it up in the minors, but that a lot of times can change when you get to the majors and it doesn't translate. And like, he's going back, but not Carroll. He's, look where he's at now.
Miguel Vargas would be
a good
example,
comparison. To say, here's somebody tearing it up, gets to the majors, has to be sent back down.
Joe Adele.
Even Adele.
Better.
Yeah. I'm sure every organization wants to have a Corbin Carroll in their organization. But yeah, so in this game, like you mentioned, you had this is other thing. Tommy Pham had not been in the lineup, and because he just wasn't hitting, he wasn't being productive at the plate. He's in the lineup in this game. Hits a home run in the second to put Arizona up 1-0, and then Lourdes Gurriel Jr. comes up and hits another home run. And this is off of Aaron Nola. So their probability to win has gone up to like 70%. And I'm sure that the odds makers in Las Vegas were going crazy because I don't know how that all works, but I can only imagine, how those numbers shift. And so Arizona's up 2-0. Then Evan Longoria doubles and Alec Thomas scores. It's 3-0, and Arizona is on top and in the second. But Philadelphia is making its way back. You had JT Realmuto hits a double. Brandon Marsh singles. Philadelphia does score a run. So they're trying to chip away, but the only problem is that's the bottom of the second, and that one run that was scored, that's their only run. Arizona isn't done. They get 2 more runs to win this game, forcing a Game 7 in Philadelphia.
Yeah, they just couldn't get anything going. 1 for 7 runners in scoring position. A couple of different double plays don't help.
Nope.
That definitely puts a drag on what's happening. So, yeah, it was. They really just didn't come out to play.
And I wonder. I think Arizona, and this may be what's the motivation. I think that they have been counted out in a lot of,
right.
Everybody, the Dodgers, they're not going to beat the Brewers. They beat the Brewers. They swept them. They sweep the Dodgers. Everybody's like, oh, Dodgers in 4. That didn't happen. And so what's the mindset of the Phillies going into this game? They're at home. You got to think that maybe their head is a little bit big because they're at home. Now, they could say otherwise and say, oh, yeah, we know they're a good team and they're blah, blah. Yeah, whatever. No. It's still the Diamondbacks.
Right. And they're not taking into account that, they're not just here because they just lucked their way in.
No.
They played hard at the beginning of the season. They had a decent lead in the NL West.
Exactly.
And the Phillies didn't play well at the beginning of the season. They took them a while to get going. The Diamondbacks, had they not lost 9 out of the gates in August, 9 in a row, they're in a better spot. Maybe they still end up being second place to the Dodgers, but
yeah.
Bottom line is they played consistently enough throughout the season. They held on. They got there. Sure, they only, had, 84 wins on the season. And
right. But
And a lot of people don't think that they should have been there with only 84 wins. And
yeah,
the integrity of the season. Well, they played every game of 162
hmm
and they found their way in, ups and downs. And when it mattered, I'm sorry, they shouldn't have beat the Dodgers.
no, they
I don't
should
know
have.
about the Brewers, but they shouldn't have beat the Dodgers based on what the Dodgers are.
Uh-huh.
So, but the Diamondbacks made adjustments. They were a good team as far as that series went. They looked at who they were playing and they did what they had to do, and the other team didn't do anything.
Yeah, and I think it's really evident for the Phillies. In this game, they lose 5-1, and now they're tied up at home. And I think even the next, this is a closer game, but I even think in this one, it's like, okay, the Phillies lost one. They're not going to win. They're not going to lose another game at home.
Right.
Not the seventh game.
I don't think they thought that. Their fans certainly didn't think that. Most of
No.
us didn't. I think that I was, I was okay either way, but
Right.
I didn't feel like I didn't completely discount Arizona because I felt like they showed they could win. One thing that they did really well throughout, steal bases. They figured out the timing for the Phillies pitchers, especially in this last game. Zach Wheeler, people weren't stealing off of him. And I think that was something that I thought about was if people don't generally try to steal off of you because of the move you have, or they're not figuring out what how you're pitching to get the timing down, maybe you just forget about it. Nobody's going to run on me anyway.
Yeah.
And in this case, it seems like they figured that out, the Diamondbacks, and they took advantage. That to me doesn't matter how many games you won. It means that you took the time to prepare better.
Right. Yeah. You looked at the different aspects of, what that team's doing, and you adjusted. And I think that that's exactly what the Diamondbacks did here. And in this seventh game, again, it was important for the Diamondbacks to score first. And it was important for them to take the crowd out of the game. And they did that.
Once again, Brandon Pfaadt on the mound. He would throw like 4 innings. And I think that there was a lot of talk the last time he pitched. He had gotten 10 guys out in a row, had been pitching really well, and they took him out. It's like, how come you didn't let him stay in a little bit longer?
Yeah.
Maybe it was a good move. Maybe it wasn't. They won that game, so I guess it was a good move. What would happen this time? He would give up 2 runs, strike out 7, and only go 4 innings. But maybe that's just all he needed.
Maybe.
And then they used the bullpen, the guys that we'd heard: Mantiply, Thompson, Saalfrank, Ginkel, Seawald, all pitched pretty well. Ranger Suarez, as usual, not too bad. 4 2/3, gave up 6 hits and 3 runs. But there's something about the way he pitches. You would have just thought that it was a start in May for him.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't, I don't think it matters, the game, the situation.
At some point in this game, they would even bring in Zach Wheeler because, hey, you gotta leave it all out there on the field.
That's it. 7th game. Everybody is in play.
All hands on deck.
That's right.
And but it really wouldn't matter too much if everybody was available or not, because once again, Diamondbacks get out, get that first run like you mentioned. They strike fast, but then it's tied up. Then they're behind. By the bottom of the 4th, it's 2-1. Top of the 5th, though, D-backs realize that there is still some life in them, and they're not about to go out without a fight. Corbin Carroll, singles, Gabriel Moreno, singles. So it was like, and Emmanuel Rivera had singled to start off the inning. Both he and Corbin Carroll would score out the other two singles in there. So they get that, and they are back in this thing. Not that they were really out of it, but they're really into it now with a 3-2 lead. And all it would take would be, technically, they didn't need anything else because they stopped the Phillies from scoring any more runs the rest of the game. And it was in the top of the seventh, they would get one more with a sacrifice fly from Corbin Carroll. Coming through, the rookie shining strong and brightly there. Geraldo Perdomo would be on base to tag up and score on that one, which would bring in Zach Wheeler. And, he was able to kind of stop things, but by then it didn't really matter. The D-backs pitchers, Kevin Ginkel comes in, strikes out the side in the bottom of the eighth, and then Sewald in the bottom of the ninth with 3 fly balls. And shocker to the Philadelphians. By the time this happened, most of them were back to Jersey.
Yeah, they were back across the Walt Whitman or the Betsy Ross, depending on where you go. But yeah, but I will say that there were a lot more who stayed till the end than there were in Houston. Houston, they just left. They're like,
I remember I hadn't been paying a lot of attention. I look up and all the seats, with the exception of like 2 or 3 behind home plate.
Yeah. Empty, right? Yeah. So I'll give it to the Phillies fan base for sticking it out, to try to, maybe some kind of good vibes, but it just wasn't going to happen. And the thing is, now Alex Boehm had a home run in this game. Does the only home run. Arizona did everything in this game, just played small ball. That's all they did. And they are going on to the World Series to face the Rangers. And it did look like I only saw like 2 Diamondback fans. So apparently people from Arizona do not move to Philadelphia for the weather. Which you wouldn't. I mean, I used to live there close, about 45 minutes from Philly. And we had one year there was, I think we had like 4 feet of snow. So that was.
Yeah, but they're not going to move there for the weather even in the summertime.
No, because then it's hot and humid.
Yeah, you might as well just, if you're already going to get heat, you might as well just get the dry heat of Phoenix.
Yes, because you don't walk out. You took a shower, you walk outside, and you're like, I had to take another shower. This is bad. Yeah. Cool city, though. Very, Philadelphia is a cool city. But not going to the World Series.
Not gonna go.
Not gonna go. And they lost. The Phillies lost, in the World Series last year. I think their soccer team was like lost in a semifinal game or something. The Eagles lose the Super Bowl. It just has not been. I think the Sixers
lost in the playoffs.
So yeah, not great for the Phillies fans right now. So
what's interesting though, you bring that up. This is the first time that the Rangers, all the Dallas teams, have been playing at the same time.
Oh, yeah. I didn't think about that.
Because the Rangers don't normally go to the postseason. So the Cowboys, the hockey team, I don't even remember, the Stars.
The Stars. Mm-hmm.
The Mavericks.
Right.
And the Rangers all playing.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Very interesting. So those 2 fans, they helped power the D-backs to the World Series. And I was watching the end of the game. Who Ketel Marte was the MVP, but I just watching like Torey Lovullo, and it just seemed like every year, I know I have mentioned it a lot, like, oh, Torey Lovullo got another contract extension. Like, what are they thinking? And
yeah, how does that work?
It.
They just lost 100 games.
Right.
They're extending him another year.
Yeah. So obviously they knew something I did not know. And I don't think I ever really paid much attention to Torey Lovullo, and why would I, watch post game, press conferences or, with him. But yeah, he really did help guide this team, and there was a mixture of, veterans and rookies, and they all just came together. And of course, I think the front office did a good job in the trade deadline with Paul Sewald and to get their bullpen up, because their bullpen, really did come through. And then the guy that, it's like, is that even a real last name? Like, what is that? I gotta, what's the origin? What does that mean? Can I say it? No. Even if I hear it, I'm still like, what? It just doesn't look right. I don't know. But they're going to the World Series, so it doesn't matter. Everybody will know how to say his name after the World Series, which these are two teams that obviously the Rangers have Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, of course, Adolis Garcia. They have, I think, Max Scherzer, Nathan Eovaldi. If Jacob deGrom, we forget about him. He obviously can't pitch. He had Tommy John, but he's there. Imagine if they did have him. What would that be like? Would it be good? Would it be bad? I don't know.
No Scherzer, probably.
Yeah, no Scherzer. Yeah, definitely. That's right. No interloper.
Right.
Finding his way onto a postseason team.
So I think, what you're saying, when you look at both of these teams, both of them, GMs, Mike Hazen from the Diamondbacks and Chris Young, they both went out there. Chris Young spent a lot of money between Semien and Seager alone. And then deGrom there, they got Scherzer in there, whatever that was worth. But they really, and then they brought some guys up, traded for Garcia, a while back, and look at what he's done. Josh Young, same thing when we look at the Diamondbacks. They didn't get any big name stars, but the guys that they got are coming together and playing. And then they bring up some rookies like Corbin Carroll, who will probably be the rookie of the year. And I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't get some MVP votes.
Oh, yeah, I would think he would. I think in this series, no repeat team at all. So something new. Arizona is a small market. Dallas, obviously Arlington, Dallas-Fort Worth area is a larger market, but it's not as big as, New York or Los Angeles, Boston Braves, even, Atlanta. So, we'll see. Will people be more interested in watching? Because it's not the Astros. It's not the Braves. It's something different. And I don't know, because it's kind of the unknown. Will people just tune it out, or will it just be the people, true baseball fans, because they want to watch baseball, and people in Texas and Arizona?
Well, of course, nobody thought that this was going to happen. The odds at the beginning of the season were astronomical. Okay, not quite, but if you bet $10 to win that this would be the series, the World Series this year, you would have walked away with $17,510.
Wow.
That's just on a $10 bet.
Wow.
So nobody was expecting it. I know I wasn't. I didn't expect them either one of those teams to play as well as they did for as long
Right.
as, the when the Diamondbacks started to fade, it was like, okay, that always happens.
Yeah.
These teams do this, but then the Rangers, they hung in there for a long time and then lost it. And of course, everybody thought that the way their last week of the season went and not holding on to the title for the AL West, thought that's it, they're done. And instead of getting to go home and have a few days off, they went from Seattle directly to Tampa and then Baltimore and then back home finally. And it didn't matter. They whatever they built there, and this team came together and said, that's it. We're not going to go out quietly.
Yeah. I think that series in Seattle kind of solidified that for them, knowing, okay, we didn't win the division, and now we gotta do what we didn't get the bye, so we're gonna take advantage of it, which is probably good because nobody wants the bye. I don't care what you say. I don't know.
I don't think anybody
wants
does.
it.
You're right.
These teams too, if you look, I mean, Arizona did win its 84 games, but the Rangers only won 6 more games than they did. So Arizona is 84 and 78 at the end of the regular season. The Rangers are 90 and 72. I think this series could be a really good one. I think it could go 7. I don't think that either team is going to come out and be a powerhouse, like just be dominant. In that, I think it could be a closer, we might see closer games. I think it could be really good baseball because they seem more, regardless of the names on the Rangers, I think that both teams seem evenly matched, starting pitching wise. But I think that the Diamondbacks have an edge with their bullpen.
I would agree with that the bullpen's there, but the Rangers clearly have more bats.
Yeah. Yeah.
Position by position,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to see the Rangers should out-hit the Diamondbacks.
They should, right? Yeah.
Every single spot you have, especially up the middle, and I think that like catchers, I think we're at a Jonah Heim has really stepped up this season, and Moreno has come out of nowhere. Third base, I think, belongs to the Rangers overall, both defensively and offensively. Young has proved, and Longoria, as good as he's been, has his problems as he's aging. Shortstop, obviously, you got to go with
the
Corey.
Rangers. Yeah.
Second base, Simeon's not bad, but I think that's a toss-up. First base, Christian Walker versus Nathaniel Lowe, also I think is kind of a push that they're right there in the same. I think it comes down to...
Although Walker is he has a golden glove.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that's why I said they're kind of...
But he defensively fine, but at the plate in this series, the CS, he didn't hit at all.
Yeah, other than the fact that he stole a base off of Zach Wheeler, which has been tough to do there in that last game. So I think a lot of it's going to come down to if the Diamondbacks are going to have to stay small, stealing bases, getting on and manufacturing their runs, because they're not a big home run hitting team.
Right. Whereas the Rangers obviously
have pop and just about. Seager can take it out of the park. We know Lowe can, obviously, Adolis Garcia. So they're going to have to get out and score early. They're on the road, which they did win in Milwaukee. They did win in LA.
Yep.
They just couldn't win in Philly to start, but now they've got that confidence. And apparently everybody likes to play in the grill. So that's where they're going to fire everything's up at.
That's right.
And then an interesting stat, I think you saw this as well. The road to the World Series seems to go through Milwaukee.
Yeah. It's like crazy how every for the last, I don't know, what was it?
I don't know. It was like the last 6-7 years. It
yeah.
seemed like.
Yeah, everything was through Milwaukee. So if you want to get to the World Series, you got to go through Mike.
So if some of these things that we've been seeing hold true, I think you got to give it to the Diamondbacks in 6.
Okay, Diamondbacks in 6. I can see that happening. But I also think I think the Rangers could win also in 6.
Well, I honestly, either way, I'm good. But I guess if I had to really say I'm pulling for one team or the other, probably the Rangers, just simply because they've never won one.
Yeah, that I'm not gonna. I know people who say, "Well, I'm gonna root for the team that's in the same division or same whatever. It's my team that I root for." And there's nothing wrong with it. Okay, you root for that division. Okay. But I'm not going to root for the Diamondbacks because they beat the Dodgers. Why would I root for them?
But doesn't that make it better? Because then you could say, yeah, we lost, but we lost to the eventual champions.
I know people say that every year. And I say no, because then they lost to whoopee-doo. They lost to the team that, I don't know. I hear that all the time about, you got to root for this team because your team lost to them, and then it makes it better because then they did end up being. I mean, I guess there's a little bit of truth to that, but
Well, you got beat by the best team. Isn't that what you want? You don't want to get beat by the team who the very next. So let's say the Dodgers. True. Let's say the Dodgers played the D-backs, and then the D-backs go into this series and they get swept. You're like, they couldn't beat. They were a better team of these teams, and they couldn't beat them.
Yeah.
They got swept by a team that then got swept by somebody else, or they got swept by the team that went and played in the World Series and won the World Series, or went to 7 games in the World Series.
Yeah, that's true.
See, I mean, from the standpoint of both these teams come from divisions that we follow teams.
That's right. That's true. Now, I am going to be rooting for the Rangers, but I feel like I have a little bit of history with the Rangers because we lived close enough, in about 4 hours to Dallas, and we would go and watch Rangers games. And I think the first game that we went down to Arlington to watch, Dad was like, "Hey, let's go catch a Rangers game." So it's like, okay. So we got tickets. We had no idea who was pitching. We just went, pick up our tickets at will call. Nolan Ryan on the mound. We were so like giddy. We're like, oh, like so excited. But yes, and then I remember going on we were visiting our great aunt who lived in Irving, and Mom stayed and visited with her, and Dad and I went to the ball game and sat out in the bleachers, just went and bought tickets at the ballpark, sat out in the outfield, and there was a little bit of a rain delay, but we had a really good time and saw fans throwing hot dogs at Jose Canseco during that game. So, yeah. So I feel like, there's a little that connection, with good memories of going to Arlington, watching the Rangers play and, watching it with Dad. So that's, that's my connection. Side. But I will be, if the Diamondbacks win, I'm not going to be, upset. Like, oh, I can't believe it,
Right. Yeah. There's teams that it would be that way, but
right.
Yeah. No, I'm with you either way. It's fine. Like like I said, kind of, I feel like I lean towards the Rangers because there is a connection there that's different than what I have with I don't have a connection with the Diamondbacks.
I don't either.
I've
Yeah.
been to 2 of the 3 stadiums there, and been to enough different games, especially in the first stadium. Just been to one in at the ballpark at Arlington. I'll know who I'm really rooting for when I start watching the games.
Yeah.
Because then I'll get that feel, that vibe. Who is it? I'd like to see like anything. It's like, well, you know what? And this is kind of cliche to say, but I just want a good series.
Yeah.
But honestly, that doesn't even matter. If somebody comes out and plays well enough and one team comes out and just smacks the other one in the mouth and runs off with it in a sweep, then so be it. If you can take advantage of somebody and win the game and exploit their weaknesses, just like the Diamondbacks had been able to do with the Dodgers, what they did with Philly at the end here, they found their weaknesses and they attacked. I think that's why I kind of lean towards them a little bit winning, because they just seem more adaptable than any of the other playoff teams have been.
Yeah, I think for everything you say, like with the Diamondbacks, they really need to manufacture runs, get those stolen bases. But for the Rangers, they have to make sure Corey Seager has to hit, Marcus Semien has to, like, up and down the line. But those guys have to, they have to hit, and they got to be smart at the plate. I think that was the downfall of the Phillies. You had in this, especially the last game, it seemed like every time one of the guys, the Phillies came up, they were just swinging for the fences. And it's like, that's not how you win games. That's because you can have, like, how many solo home runs did Philadelphia have? It seemed like a lot, but, and that's kind of just what they do. Like, Schwarber hit a home run, Bryce Harper hit a run, but those guys were like, 1 for 15 in this last game because they weren't smart at the plate. And especially towards the end where they knew they needed to get some runs in order to win. And they just were swinging at things that it was like, what are you doing? What is going on here? Like, it was like they were panicked. And so they're just like, I got to hit this. I got to hit this ball. However I hit it. And instead they just struck out.
Right. And that just goes to show that's part of something that the D-backs did in the way that they were playing. They put pressure on them. Those guys didn't even realize it, that they felt like, we gotta go for the long ball. We gotta, play hard. So, all right. So I guess we're both taking one side or the other in 6. So yeah, I'll go with the D-backs in 6. You've got the Rangers in 6.
Yep.
Well, let's see what happens.
It's the Battle of the West.
Yep.
So we got the NL West and the AL West, and I think I like I said, I always pick a team, but I think it's just I think this is going to be a good series.
Yeah, I think so too. It's the battle of the shouldn'ts.
That's true.
Yeah, shouldn't have been there. How did this happen?
Yeah, everything fires up at the Grill tomorrow with Game 1 of the World Series.
Right,
and probable pitchers, looks like Nathan Eovaldi will be on the mound for the Rangers and Zach Gallen on the mound for the Diamondbacks. And Gallen is 2-2 with a 5.24 ERA. Eovaldi 4-0 with a 2.42 ERA.
So 2 things that we've talked about or have come up, about the series, and that was the scheduling, the big time off. I'm not really sure how you work that now because there was teams that had time off and made it through. And it seemed like that didn't affect the Astros. So is it just Dusty was better with them? And how do these other teams who had to play consistently without really any time off, is it better that way because they've maintained a more like regular season schedule? So until we can get a more definitive feel, because that was one thing, had both these series been sweeps, there would have been about a 5 to 6 day break. How would that have looked coming out? We're not going to know because both these teams have been playing since the wild card.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. The other thing is a lot of talk about not so much the Rangers, but more so the Diamondbacks, because they're basically, I don't know that they tanked, but we saw that with the Orioles did that. We've seen that with teams where they're not spending any money. They'll trade away the big stars and they got a lot back in return. And now the Orioles, it's paying off. The Diamondbacks, they have some rookies coming up, but besides Corbin Carroll and now Brandon Pfaadt,
Yeah.
who was in the minors most of the season, has just been that one thing. That's what they need to make them a team of destiny is, that rookie player that comes out of nowhere at the end of the season and brings them up. But somebody wrote and, posted on, and you actually sent me a link to it that said, they think that it takes away from the integrity of the game, teams that tank.
Yeah, I hate teams that tank. I don't care how successful they are, as it undermines the integrity of the game.
Well, I don't think it undermines the integrity. It may be of MLB, but not of the game. It doesn't matter who you put out there. People who want to play baseball, it doesn't matter. But yeah, from a business standpoint, from trying to put the best, team out there, best talent, and not give it all away. Sure. I think I told you when you asked me what I thought about it. Yes and no. I go with that. But one thing that I've learned this season more than ever before is MLB is not baseball, from the sense that the things that they do, pitch clocks, all the rules that have come into play, bigger bases, all that, are not meant for people who just love the game of baseball. They're meant to get people in the stands, to get people interested in watching, because whether it's true or not, and go to Dodger Stadium, go to Angel Stadium, go to a lot of stadiums on a summer night, stadiums are full, with some exceptions. Obviously, we know Tampa Bay and Oakland. And they're like, one, sure, nobody goes to those games. The other one, why aren't you going to those games? Tampa Bay's got a great, talented team. Regardless of what happened in the playoffs, they are a very talented team. How is it that you're not going out to watch this team play baseball? And so all those things are not, if they're tanking, it's for business reasons. The Dodgers ownership said, are we worried about losing in October? No, because wait till next season, over 3 million people are going to still come to the ballpark. What do you think their main focus is? Money.
Yeah.
It's not about the game. It's about money.
Mm-hmm.
And so MLB is a whole different program. It is not something that it doesn't matter how you play on the field and all that if your ownership doesn't care about that. If they just want to find out the best way to bring in some money. Yeah, they may put superstars out there, but look at it. The Dodgers in the regular season can run out Mookie and Freddie and whoever else, and if they are able to snag some top free agents and play every night during the season when anybody can go to a game,
mm-hmm.
they're going to do that because that's going to maximize your dollar. If they win a championship, great. They're going to be excited about that. But if they don't, they're not losing money. And that's what they want to do. It's entertainment. And as long as we keep that in our heads about Major League Baseball, we realize that the owners, it's not necessarily about the game. The game is a means to an end, and the end is dollar signs.
Yeah. Which leads me back to, and I know we will talk about both the Angels and the Dodgers going forward as we get to the end of the season with the World Series. But Andrew Friedman said it's an organizational failure, but that also, I think, includes the owners. But I don't think the owners see themselves as part of the organization. They don't see themselves as part of the failure, especially when you have Stan Katzton, who said, well, it doesn't matter because they're going to fill the seats anyway.
They're going to buy the
care.
jerseys.
Right.
They're going to fill the seats, and it doesn't matter what happens.
Yeah. I got onto Oakland fans because they had the one game and nobody was showing up, but then everybody showed up to the one game. And I think you need to support your team, but at the same time, it obviously didn't work because, because the owners don't care. So in this case, they didn't care. I think that if for the Dodgers, if fans stop showing up then I think there would be a bigger issue.
That started happening in the Frank McCourt days, and changes happen.
Yeah.
But that's not going to happen for
no,
for
it's not going to happen
until it looks like the whole thing's going to fall apart.
I guess my point with the A's was you had this one night and people showed up. It wasn't, I don't remember, maybe close to 30,000. And I get the whole point. Well, we're not going to show up. You need to sell the team. But if every night you had 30,000 people chanting, sell, 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 I think you get more sympathy from people, because otherwise people look at it and say, well, you just don't support your team. They were supporting the team, but they were doing it in a different way.
I think that they should not show up at all. Not just, having the reverse boycott night, but actually, instead of people coming, find a way to get everybody, even opposing team fans. There were a lot of Orioles fans when I went to that game up there.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody. That's going to change. And then the other thing is they need to stop. Yes, the A's need to be sold. Steve Fisher needs to sell that team, but they also need to hold Oakland City Council accountable when they say, we're going to work with you to keep you here. And then they make some like quarter measure kind of a thing to try to keep them in town and go, well, see what we did. And they didn't buy into it.
Right.
Well, why would nobody would buy into it. You gave them a crappy offer.
Yeah. Well, I think I'd even look at Tampa Bay. They're getting a new stadium, but it's still in St. Petersburg. It's still in St. Pete. So what's the argument about why attendance is low for Tampa Bay? Is because nobody wants to go across, the bay. Nobody wants to go across the bridge.
Yeah, they don't want to go to downtown St. Pete.
Yeah.
And I don't know all the details about what it takes to get there, but they don't want to go there. So, it's a nice new shiny stadium, and people will probably come a couple of times to see it.
And
but it's all those things that keep them from going there for any other reason, that keep them from going to the dome they play in now.
Yeah.
Are going to keep them from going to this nice new place.
Right. So you're not solving anything. You're getting a nice, new, shiny place to play, but you're not solving the problem of attendance. And I think that's the problem with owners. Is I think Steve Cohen is a good example of the Mets, where you think you could just throw money at players and they're going to win. I'm going to get all these top players, and look what happened. You had two of their pitchers, traded to go to Houston, one to Texas, and they were both in the postseason.
One still is.
And one still is, right. But you can't just throw money at things and just expect people to show up all the time.
Well, and Artie Moreno is a good example of that he spent money on players. It's not like he hasn't.
Right.
And I'm sure he's going to put out a big number for Shohei. The problem is that when you look at the rest of the organization, the pieces that you need are not being built. And that's the things that we can see with more than one of the playoff teams, is that they're not just trying to buy something, or even if they do have, the Dodgers have a great, farm system, it seems, great player development. But Trey Turner said something that could be taken as kind of a dig at the Dodgers about prep, the hitting prep, that they overdo it. Yes, we get information, but we're not overthinking everything like some organizations. And I think we see that with the Dodgers. And that's why they didn't make any farther, because they tried to change up things in a short span, and instead of remembering what works best for their during the season and how to play it there, and realize too they have to make adjustments on the fly. Not, the last time we played the Diamondbacks they did this, we're going to see them again in another short series. Well, no, from game to game. And at some point during the season, every game's just another game is a great philosophy. In the postseason, every game is an elimination game, and that's how they need to play it, and they don't.
They don't. And I had mentioned, I thought, that the Dodgers weren't, that they were not disciplined at the plate as they had been in the regular season. But Max Muncy gave an interview and said that they were too disciplined and that they just needed to go out there and not worry, just play, right? Not worry about the situation. Oh, this is a right-hander, this left-hander, whatever. And that's another thing that I thought that was better. It was a shortened season with 2020, but they didn't have the tablets. And I think that makes a huge difference, because if you're constantly looking at that one at bat, well, the next at bat isn't going to be the same.
No, it could be a different pitcher.
Right.
And even if it's the same pitcher, he may not throw you the same things because he knows you're looking for the same thing.
Right.
And
yeah.
So, and that's what we see when we look at these two teams, especially the Diamondbacks right now, is that they're taking real-time information. They're using the analytics to train and get ready for the games. And while they're in games, they're using the information. The Rangers have to do it too, or else they're not going to win. And they've been winning. You see what's going on. Oh, let's see, this pitcher does this, and he seems to be leaning on this today. Let's watch for that sweeper. Let's watch for that fastball or whatever on the outside corner. This umpire has been calling this low pitch all day. Adjust, like Pete Rose told A-Fraud and Frank Thomas. When I saw this happening, I moved up in the box. When I saw this happening, I moved in, or I moved back, whatever it was. I adjusted pitch by pitch if I needed to. And both of those guys stood there, as great a hitters as they were, and said, I could have been 100 points better.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little adjustments like that. And that's where it's the situational awareness. And so it has to be each situation. Each at bat is a situation. Each situation is different. And that is something that I'd like to see more of in the game. I think we see that with the Diamondbacks, where everybody, even Bruce Bochy, they're going to use the analytics. Analytics are here, but when you're in the game, all of that, it's, this is the World Series. This is a postseason. Like you said, every game is elimination game. So you can't play like you play in the postseason. And really, you can't rely on those analytics because it's the postseason and it's not the same as regular season baseball. It's just different.
You have to be prepared every time to go out and face pitchers that throw 100 miles an hour, that are, low ERA, low whip, Cy Young award winner type pitchers every outing. You can't take, because who knows? You're downplaying Brandon, Pfaadt, and then he comes out and pitches a gem of a game. You just don't know where it's coming from, and it's always going to be better. During the season, things happen differently, but you have to watch it every single time. And I think these two teams, although they're not the best, they're not the dream matchup that MLB might have wanted, or Fox or whoever's got the World Series. It is, but this is one where you can maybe see the game actually be played. How do they play them defensively? How do the teams adjust? Stealing bases, things like that. Did they figure out the timing on a pitcher? Did they realize he doesn't care? Whatever it is, are they able to make those adjustments as it goes? Can they figure out Nathan Eovaldi or, Merrill Kelly or whoever? Will each team be able to make that happen? And then also in there at the same time, and although this sounds kind of counterintuitive, be able to play high level baseball and make it seem like they just don't care what the other team's doing. They're just going to be out there to beat them.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really good series. And they did, all the teams played each other. I think, I don't know. That's what is great about postseason baseball, because you don't know. You can have the superstar who goes 0 for the whole series, and then you have, a rookie or the guy off the bench that comes in and is the one that, makes a difference. And so that's the great thing about postseason baseball. And that's why teams have to treat it differently. Can't treat it like the regular season. So I will be excited to tune in tomorrow night and see how this first game, I think it maybe, I don't know, will it set a tone for the series? Who knows? And how will the Rangers do at home?
Right. That's going to be a good question. Something else to keep in mind, during the season, the Diamondbacks won the season series 3-1. Will they have the same domination? I don't remember when they played the Rangers in the season.
And they had like 2 games, I think, in Phoenix and 2 games at the Grill. Something like that. It wasn't, but yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, it's just kind of like what the Angels and the Dodgers, 2-2.
Mm-hmm.
When they played them in August and May, they beat them both games in August. The Rangers the D-backs beat the Rangers both games in August, and then they beat them 1 of 2 in early May. And the 1 of 2 in early May, that was they were at the Grill.
Well, I think too, one thing for the Diamondbacks that they have to keep, yes, they're going to the World Series, but they've got to keep the mindset that nobody expected them to be there. Like you said, the shouldn'ts. And it's both teams, but especially I think the Diamondbacks. They've got to keep that underdog, nobody expected us to be here mentality, because I think it served them well, or has served them well throughout this postseason.
And that'll do it for this week's edition of the Sibling Rivalry Baseball Podcast. Join us next week when we'll be talking World Series. And by next week, since everything starts on Friday, you got Friday, Saturday, day off on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So by next week, We could be talking a sweep, or we may be carrying over to the following week.
You just never know.
To finish
Postseason
things
baseball.
up, postseason baseball is fantastic, and so we'll be right there, locked in for what we here at SRBB will just dub it now, the Battle of the Shouldn'ts.
That's it.
The 2023 World Series. You can find us on our social media pages, Twitter at Sibling Rivalry BB without the A.
And on Facebook and Instagram at Sibling Rivalry BB with the A.
And then, of course, stop by our website, siblingrivalrybb.com. Check out the Fanatics link and get yourself some postseason gear to root on either one of these teams, or get new gear from your team to make yourself feel better about there's always next year. All right. For Jana and myself, we appreciate you checking in with us. And we will see you next week right here on the Sibling Rivalry Baseball Podcast. Don't forget to swing away.